The following week, Wednesday, driving exam day, Nicholas only managed to get an additional $2,000 to borrow. He now has a total of $4,000. He is next in line to complete the yard test.
Sir, I need you to drive forward off the ramp.
Nicholas is a bit nervous, but he is quite confident he can do it without failing. He completes the phases in the yard and is now about to do the road test.
Turn left at the next stop sign.
Nicholas is aware that he must use his indicator, but he mistakenly pushes the right indicator instead of the left one. There was a lapse of about 5 seconds. He quickly corrects the error before reaching the stop sign. However, Mr. Wilson took note of the minor error.
Take the right at the dual carriageway. Then stop.
Nicholas is driving on a busy street and he knows it is wrong to stop suddenly in traffic. So he quickly observes his surroundings and identifies an appropriate place to stop. He remembers to use his indicators as needed and to avoid trailing too closely behind vehicles.
Well, Mr. Barnaby, we are almost back to the depot.
Yes, sir, I realize.
But you have a slight problem that a little greasing can fix.
Nicholas is anxious because the only thing he can think of is the 5 seconds indicator error he made.
What is the issue, sir?
You gave wrong signal earlier. That minor error could have caused an accident.
Nicholas is quite surprised at the remark but decides to cooperate with the inspector.
Sir, I am not going to fail today, so here, this is $4,000. That's all I have.
Mr. Wilson discreetly takes the money and hides it away. He smiles and says,
Respect, Mr. Barnaby. Good driving, you passed.
Thanks again for tuning in to Lightsman Darkman Tales of Truth production. If you have made it this far, this is where we now have the discussion about the depiction presented, about the scenarios presented. So this is episode 2, all surrounding the inspector and the customer. The first question I have here is, should Nicholas have to worry about failing because of the system? And by that I mean the system as it relates to the corruption that exists in it. Should he have to worry about failing because of the dishonesty of members of staff within a system that was created by the government to give licensing to customers in the public? Should he have to worry? I think not. I think he should be confident going there, knowing that he did what he should do, which is prepare himself for the test, prepare himself for the theoretical test and the practical test, because that's usually how it is done. You will have to prepare for a written test and for the driving test, and that's what he has been doing. But to his surprise, lo and behold, he now has to worry about giving an extra fee, because it didn't matter much that he prepared himself for driving or for sitting the examination. It matters also that someone has to get an extra dollar to see him go through the system. And to me, that is quite unfair. Now, I had a personal encounter with this. This is not the reason for me presenting this message, however, but I recall the same experience, like did my driving lessons and did the test. I passed the test and I made one minor mistake on the road, and I was failed. The inspector failed me. I'm not doing this out of a personal vendetta, but I am presenting the impact and the effects corruption has on us as a society, as a whole, as individuals. Likewise, Nicholas in this scenario, he had made sacrifices. So for him now to be worried about the system failing him is just going to double the pressure and the burden that he already went through in preparing himself financially for this event. And I want you to pay close attention to the fact that the person who is doing these things, he is not in real need. He's doing it, Mr. Wilson is doing this based off the fact that he's just greedy and he wants more, and he has the power to get what he wants, and so he uses this power. And this is what we see happening in our society. This is what we see happening on a day-to-day basis. Whether we operate a government entity or a private entity, there are always some loopholes, some backdoor deals to deal with. And I know a lot of persons might not agree with me sharing these things. And like I've said before in my first presentation, I am not standing before anyone playing to be or pretending to be perfect as a person, because we all do things that are not in keeping with the harmonious rhythm of the universe, so to speak. But I know that we must stop. I know that we must try to do better. I know that we must program ourselves in the same way we programmed ourselves to do things that impact each other in a negative way. Likewise, we can program ourselves to do things that will elevate each other, that will uplift each other. And this is where the concept of the light man, dark man comes into play. Because again, this Inspector Wilson has the power and authority, so to speak, to shed light in the life of this individual. But he doesn't even know what he has done, right? He has amplified his burden because now he had to borrow extra monies to meet the system's demand. We ought to take note of the fact that when we do things, on a personal or on a corporate level, that we affect those around us in either a positive or a negative way. It's by doing these things that we have repercussions and ripple effects. Because you do one thing and he might just let it slide. You do another one thing and he say, no, it not go so. And this is why sometimes we see certain events taking place in the society, certain atrocities and certain violence. It comes out of a certain anger, a certain hate, or a certain revenge for a particular situation. It might spur from an event like this, because what if Nicholas is now unable to repay Danny, or he cannot meet his other financial demand, has to borrow more money to put himself in more debt because he had to ensure that the government then or the inspector get fame portion, despite the fact that he was prepared and he was able to pass the exam. I hope I am not being misunderstood when I'm saying that light is greater than darkness, and we are supposed to be light beings. That is the essence of my presentations. I believe that we are spiritual beings above everything else, and that in every sphere of our life we must be emitting light in our behavior, light in our dealings, light in our conversations, light in our approaches and in our responses to certain things. Instead of showing the dark side, we show the light side of ourselves to to empower and to uplift and to encourage. Now, the second question I would like to ask is, why does the inspector seem so confident in his dealings? Could it be that he's just overly certain, absolutely certain that generally people yield to this type of treatment? Could it be that he has been there and done that before? It is like second nature to him, so to speak. Could it be that it's because no one is saying anything or doing anything about it? The persons above him some of them might be in league, or they don't know, so no one is aware, therefore no one can address the issue. Could it be that they know and they are also benefiting from it, so the system continue to roll? What is it that is causing him to be so confident? Because what he failed Nicholas for, to me, could have been overlooked. And it might seem ridiculous coming from a depiction point of view, because this is all fiction. But in reality, sometimes you find yourself in a situation where people cut you no slack and do things because they have the pen to mark you as pass or fail, in that manner, so to speak. I think he's confident because he knows what is behind the scene, he knows what is taking place behind the scene, and he knows those who are in league with the operations, with this type of operation. I think he's also confident because it has happened so many times that it is a custom now, and so people just have to get with the program. But him being confident about this doesn't change the fact that it is wrong. He getting away with it doesn't change the fact that it is wrong to accept bribe, to force somebody to cause somebody to fail based on the fact that they made a minor error. I might be wrong in saying calling something minor error, because an error is an error, but at the end of the day, when we consider these things in reality, these things happen. If you don't have money to do certain things, you cannot see your way through. And this is how corruption starts. This is how corruption enters into the minds and heart of people. Some people enter certain businesses or certain organizations with a pure intent, but soon they realize that the customs there are of such that if they decide to stay, they will be corrupted also. And sometimes people, by understanding these things, choose whether to stay or to leave. The third question I would like to ask is, what problems can arise from Nicholas having to borrow extra money because he fears losing to the system? Well, debt, putting himself his debt is definitely one. He had to borrow money. He had to go and get extra money to make that payment, to give away basically. He can become very hostile, angry because of the system, and take it out in a physical way. Be aggressive towards government working individuals, personnel. Even those that have nothing to do with the particular situation, but work in the same organization. You can decide that, hey, if them are do it, me can go do it too. You can decide to join the bandwagon and say, yeah, me go eat a food, me go join, me go make my own thing, or me go be a part of a thing that can give me my thing. And the funny thing is, when he does that, the same knife will stick sheep will stick goat, them say. But the reality is, when he does that, knock, the policeman will come knocking at his door and arrest him. Yet, these persons who are doing these things behind the scene get away with it because it is quote-unquote legal in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the government, I would say. I'm saying this not based on what people are telling me, but based on what my intuition and my spirit tells me, that if they are aware of these things and do nothing about it, I know that there is a new program coming up now that is seeking to totally eliminate this corruption that we're experiencing in society, especially as it relates to the licensing depot and other places. But I don't want to be pessimistic, but I am almost certain that it will not totally eradicate it, because there's always a way to go around the system. But as best as possible, I would like them to address this issue. I know that they are making some moves. They are putting some plans in place to address this issue. I only hope that it is effective, and that we all can learn that we don't need to go so low. For what? For material gain? So the problems that can arise are very serious. He can become just like them, can become worse than them. But the sad thing is, when he's caught on the wrong side of the law, he's going to be penalized. He has to face the judge. Why not? Why aren't these people facing the judge also? Why aren't they facing sentence also? I think the system is somewhat designed to oppress the poor. I think the system is somewhat designed to steal from the poor and give to the rich. That the rich will be rich and the poor will be poorer. You can't blame me for thinking like that when you see what is happening. I know a lot of persons might not agree with me or want to hear these truths, but the point is, we are light beings. I'll be putting on some other presentations and videos about what I'm saying, and the research is out there. We are light beings. We are supposed to be presenting light to each other, to help each other along this life's journey. But instead we kill each other, we steal from each other, we backstab each other, we do things, we bandole, we do stuff that brings down each other. And I think it's time for us to realize that in order for us to go forward as a people, as a nation, as humanity, we have to recognize the little things that are hindering us spiritually. And so this goes back to spirituality and how much spirituality is involved in all of this. Because when you have a good spiritual bearing, a good spiritual compass, it will prevent you from doing certain things. It will discourage you from even thinking a certain way. Now, I'm not speaking about religion, that's another case. I'm speaking about spirituality. And it's very important that we take note of our spirituality and how it impacts everything that we do. So yes, he can get himself in some serious trouble because he can just be more aggressive and just start deciding to do the same thing, and it might not work out for him. Next question I would like to ask is, do you think the government is unaware of these dealings? Obviously, I said that earlier that they are making some efforts to change it. So no, they are not unaware. They are aware. The problem, I think, is that you cannot single out any one person because a lot of persons are involved. Right? And I'm not saying that throw all of them in prison. I'm just saying penalize them, charge them, let them understand that the power and authority given to them, invested in them, is not for them to abuse, but for them to use to serve the public. That's the power and authority that is worth having. The one that is put in gear, in motion, to protect and to serve the public in a very decent and honest way. Not to take it upon themselves to bend the law for their purposes, or to do things that suggest that there can be no integrity in those persons in authority as it relates to the government. So no. So yes, they are not unaware of the dealings, and they are, as I've said, they are trying to make put some things in place to address this issue. I hope that it will truly become effective, and that people like citizens like me who wants to obey the want to do what the system says. Even though not everything in the system I agree with still, but wants to do what the system says for the fact that if I don't do it, I'm going to get in trouble. People like me who do that feel comfortable enough so me I do it and everybody else do it. You understand? We cannot say, boy, I make the law and I can control the law, so you must obey it, and if me choose to obey it, it's my business because I make the law, or I regulate the law, or I institute stuff, so I have the power to do what I will. No. Same knife for stick sheep, stick goat. It goes for you, it goes for me too. You can't put a burden upon the people that you yourself not carrying. You understand? That's not fair, that's not right, that's not equal. And this is what we realize is causing a lot of problems in the society, because you have some people who are just radical and dark, and they are not going to sit down and allow any government or any system to tell them how to live. And they act rash and they act irresponsible, and they just do things that are wrong, not solving the problem. But they realize the corruption in the system and they try to circumvent it. And by doing so, they become outlaws. I'm not agreeing with an outlaw. I'm saying that this is why some people turn to crime and violence. Because the system is set up to oppress you. And when you try to make a way out, you're hit left, right, and center, right? And then when you get fed up and decide you can't manage no more, you're going to take action. The government or the state, the military force come in and pull you down, gun you down and lock you up. But these persons are the same persons that caused this problem in the first place, because some of the systematic laws and things that have been put in place, to me, have been put in place to oppress the poor, more so the poor than anyone else. I've seen this in many instances, which I will not get into until I share my other episodes, because I'm just sharing episodes that will depict real life events, as I've said in my introduction. Now the final question I would like to ask is, what can be done to change how the system operates? And I think the answer is quite obvious. It's a change of attitude, a change of mind, a change of behavior, a change of spirit, a change of thinking. Practical changes must be put in place, but it has to start at the root. You have to recognize that this is affecting not one person, but all of us. Because when Tom is rejected by the system because he don't have the money and he didn't fail, he didn't outrightly fail, he did his best, but for some reason he failed because the system is designed to fail him. And Tom decided, no, I can't bother and I try if I get my license that I could have go run my taxi and give my people them some food to eat and pay my bills them and work out my problems them, because I need money and I try to get myself right so I could get my license and then fail me. I can't bother and you hear me? I robot me I do I've got Dutch police and I'm going and the boy they come, the Babylon boy they come, them have to know so I now stop they come in my way me and let them down These are some of the things that happens, and we don't realize how we impact each other by the things that people in power do. On a government level and on an individual level, we impact each other. So the head and the tail play a part. So the head being the government and the tail then, for argument's sake, for want of a better word, being the citizens of this country. We each play a part in how we deal with the problems that we face. If the man in power put in place to issue a license is corrupt, and by virtue of him being corrupt, he prevents the access to the person who came to get his license, and he did his best and did well, and you're failing because him not have no money extra to pay you. You only create more problems. I'm not saying that this happens every time. I'm not saying that people don't get blind even when they don't have money. But you need to check the ratio, you need to do the statistics, and you need to find out. Because in my personal experience, I witnessed an individual cussing. Because when I failed and I came back, another person would fail too, and he was cussing and said, look how on the Monday stay so man, but just make a simple mistake and the man failed, and Mr. Lady there, the person almost crashed and him pass her. How could that be? I witnessed that at a depot. I won't call the depot's location, but at a depot I witnessed that. Me fail, another person fail. And another person should have failed, but for some reason that person passed. So me fail by making a minor mistake, another person fail by making a minor mistake. Mind you, both of us were male. So I wonder if it's a female male thing. Males are more reckless on the road than females. So even when a female make a mistake, them get her blind. Or we don't know. Whatever the situation is, that is not justice, that is not fair. Same knife is stick shape, stick both. You understand? But thanks again for listening. I hope you get the gist of what this program is really about. It's not to condemn, really, it's not to hate or to spread propaganda on anyone. It's really to discuss the problems that we are, to highlight and to depict first the problems through scenarios, fictitious scenarios that are created, and then present them as what is really happening in society in the discussion. So I hope you get the gist of this. The purpose of doing all of this, I want to just reiterate, is that at the end of the day, my purpose is to help each of us as individuals, as members of the government, and individual members of society, to recognize the power that we have to do good or to do evil, to bring life or to take life, to encourage or to discourage. We are light beings. We have a dark side to us. All of us do. Why not let us all emanate that light? If you came from a source that is light, why not emulate the light source, the life-giving source, by what we do and how we practice our business and how we relate to each other in business? Why not do that? Thanks again for listening. I truly hope you enjoyed it. I surely hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for another episode in Light Man, Dark Man, Tales of Truth production. Thank you.